I should have known something was wrong the moment I walked through my front door and saw them sitting there like vultures waiting for their prey. It was supposed to be my birthday, my 32nd birthday. I had spent the entire day at our catering kitchen putting the finishing touches on a wedding cake for this weekend's event. My hands still smelled like vanilla and buttercream frosting. I was tired, happy, and looking forward to a quiet evening with my husband Derek. Maybe some takeout, a movie, and the small celebration he had promised me. Instead, I found Derek sitting at our dining table with his mother Beverly, both of them wearing expressions I had never seen before. Cold, calculating, almost excited. "Nah, come sit down," Derek said, his voice strangely formal. He didn't get up to hug me like he usually did. He didn't even smile. Beverly was dressed in her expensive black suit, the one she wore to important business meetings. Her perfectly styled grey hair didn't have a single strand out of place, and her red lipstick looked like fresh blood. She was holding a thick manila folder in her manicured hands. "Happy birthday, dear," Beverly said, but her voice was dripping with fake sweetness, the same tone she used when she was about to say something cruel but wanted to sound nice. I set my purse down slowly, my heart starting to beat faster. Something was very, very wrong here. "What's going on?" I asked, looking between them. "Why do you both look so serious?" Derek cleared his throat and straightened his tie. "Now we need to talk about us, about our marriage, about the business, our catering company that we had built together from nothing, the company that was my baby, my dream, my entire life's work." Beverly opened the manila folder and pulled out a stack of papers. Legal papers. I could see the official letterhead from across the room. "Sit down, Nina," Derek said again, this time more firmly. I remained standing. "Tell me what this is about first." Beverly's fake smile grew wider, showing all her perfectly white teeth. "Well, since you insist on being difficult, I'll just say it plainly. Derek is divorcing you." The words hit me like a physical blow. I actually took a step backward. "What?" I whispered. Derek finally looked at me, and I saw something in his eyes that made my blood turn to ice. He looked pleased, like he was enjoying this. "It's over now," he said, his voice getting stronger. "Our marriage is over and I'm taking the business." "You're taking the business," I repeated, my voice barely audible. "Our business, the one we built together." Beverly laughed. Actually laughed, a cold, harsh sound that echoed through our dining room. "Oh, honey," she said, standing up and walking toward me with the papers. "It was never really our business, was it? Derek's name is on all the important documents, the business license, the bank accounts, the contracts with our biggest clients. You were just the cook, just the cook." The words felt like a slap across my face. "And this house," Derek added, gesturing around our beautiful home that I had decorated with so much love and care. "It's in my name too, so you'll need to find somewhere else to live." I stared at him. This man I had loved for 8 years, this man I had married. This man I had trusted with everything I had. "You're kicking me out of my own home on my birthday." "It's not your home," Beverly said, shoving the papers toward me. "It never was. Derek bought this house with money I gave him. You just lived here." Derek stood up and walked over to stand next to his mother. They looked like a team, like they had planned this together. "Sign the papers, nah," Derek said, "the divorce papers and the business transfer documents. Make this easy on yourself." I looked down at the papers in Beverly's hands. Divorce papers, eviction notices, business transfer documents. Everything that mattered to me, everything I had worked for, everything I had built was being taken away. "You planned this," I said quietly. "Both of you, you planned this whole thing." Derek shrugged. "You were never good enough for this family, nah. You came from nothing and you'll go back to nothing. You're just trash." Beverly laughed again. "Expensive trash that we're finally throwing out." They both started laughing, then standing there in my dining room laughing at me like I was some kind of joke. I looked at these two people who were destroying my life, who were taking everything from me, who were treating me like garbage on what was supposed to be my special day. And then something strange happened. I smiled. I reached out, took the papers from Beverly's hands and signed every single one without reading them. "There," I said, my voice calm and steady. "All done." Derek and Beverly stopped laughing. They looked confused. I picked up my purse, walked to the front door and turned back to look at them one last time. "Thank you," I said, "for showing me exactly who you really are." Then I walked out of that house and closed the door behind me. They had no idea what was coming. 6 months earlier, everything had been perfect, or at least I thought it was. I remember standing in our brand new commercial kitchen watching Derek hang our business license on the wall. Tours Catering, it read in bold black letters. "Our last name, our dream, our future. We did it, baby," Derek had said, wrapping his arms around me from behind. "From your tiny apartment kitchen to this. Look what we built together." I leaned back against his chest, feeling so proud and so grateful. We had started with nothing. Literally nothing. Just me cooking meals for Derek's co-workers out of my cramped apartment, using my grandmother's old recipes and whatever ingredients I could afford. Derek had been the one with the connections. His college friends had become lawyers and doctors and business owners, and they all needed catering for their fancy parties. Derek would charm them, make the deals, handle the money side of things. I would create the magic in the kitchen. Remember our first real job? I asked him that day, watching our new employees set up the prep stations. Derek chuckled. The Henderson wedding. You were so nervous you barely slept for 3 days, and you kept telling me everything would be perfect. I said, you believed in me when I didn't believe in myself. That was the Derek I had fallen in love with, the Derek who would stay up all night helping me test new recipes, the Derek who would drive across town at midnight to get a special ingredient I needed. The Derek who told everyone that his wife was the most talented chef in the city. But looking back now, I can see when things started to change. It was small things at first. Derek started taking more phone calls in private. He would step outside or go into his office and close the door. When I asked who he was talking to, he would say it was just business stuff. Nothing I needed to worry about. Then Beverly started visiting more often. Derek's mother had never liked me much, but she had mostly stayed out of our lives. Suddenly she was showing up at the kitchen during busy times, wanting to see how things were going. You know, Derek, she would say loud enough for me to hear while I was cooking, you're really the brains behind this operation. Na is lucky to have someone who understands business. Derek never corrected her. He would just nod and change the subject. Beverly also started bringing up money a lot. How much we were making, how much we were spending, whether we were maximizing our potential. She would suggest changes to our business model, ways to streamline operations. Maybe you don't need so many kitchen staff, she told Derek one day while I was right there. Na can handle most of the cooking herself, that would save money. Nena already works 16-hour days, Derek said, but he didn't sound like he was arguing. He sounded like he was considering it. The worst part was the paperwork. Derek started bringing me documents to sign almost every week. Tax forms, insurance papers, bank account changes, just business stuff. He would say, you don't need to read through all the legal language, I've already reviewed everything. I trusted him. Of course, I trusted him, he was my husband. We were partners, why would I question anything he put in front of me? But then I started noticing other things. Derek would come home late, smelling like expensive perfume that wasn't mine. He would get text messages at dinner and smile at his phone in a way that made my stomach hurt. Who's texting you? I asked one night. Just a client, he said, but he turned his phone face down on the table. Our conversations became shorter. Our kisses became quick pecks on the cheek. Derek stopped asking about my day, stopped complimenting my cooking, stopped talking about our future plans together. The breaking point came 3 weeks before my birthday. I had finished cleaning the kitchen late one night and realized I had forgotten my car keys. I went back inside and heard Derek on the phone in his office. No, Mom, she doesn't suspect anything. He was saying she signs whatever I put in front of her. She's too trusting for her own good. I froze outside his office door. The lawyer says we can do it on her birthday. Derek continued, Maxim impact. She'll be so shocked she won't know what hit her. Beverly's voice was loud enough that I could hear her through the phone. Perfect, that little nobody has been living off our family's success long enough. Time to put her back where she belongs. Derek laughed, actually laughed. Don't worry, Mom. After next week, Nina tours will be nothing but a bad memory. We'll have the business, the house, everything. And she'll have exactly what she deserves, which is nothing. Beverly's voice crackled through the speaker. Which is nothing, Derek agreed. I stood there in the dark hallway, my heart pounding so loud I was sure they would hear it. My husband, the man I loved, the man I had built a life with, was planning to destroy me, and he was enjoying it. I quietly picked up my keys and left, my mind racing with questions and my heart breaking into a million pieces. But I didn't confront him, not yet. I needed to know exactly what I was dealing with first. The next morning I called in sick for the first time in 3 years. Derek seemed surprised but not suspicious when I told him I had a terrible headache and needed to rest. Take care of yourself, babe, he said, kissing my forehead before leaving for the kitchen. I'll handle everything today. The moment his car pulled out of our driveway, I called Lucia. Lucia Santos had been my best friend since culinary school. She was also our business manager, the one person besides Derek and me who had access to all our financial records. If anyone could help me figure out what Derek was planning, it was her. Nina, are you okay? Derek said you were sick, Lucia said when she answered. I need you to come over, I said. Right now and bring all the business files you can carry. Lucia knew me well enough to hear the urgency in my voice. I'll be there in 20 minutes. When she arrived, I told her everything about the phone call I had overheard, about Derek's strange behavior, about Beverly's increased involvement in our business. Lucia listened without interrupting, her dark eyes getting wider with each detail. That snake, she whispered when I finished. I knew something was wrong. He's been asking me for financial reports that he never cared about before. We spread all the business documents across my dining room table. Bank statements, contracts, insurance policies, tax forms. Everything looked normal at first glance, but as we dug deeper, a terrifying pattern began to emerge. "Look at this," Lucia said, pointing to a bank statement from 2 months ago. "Derek opened a new business account. See, it's under Tor's Catering, but only his name is on the signature card." My stomach dropped. "What does that mean?" "It means he can move money in and out of that account without your permission," Lucia explained. "And look at these transfers. He's been moving our biggest client payments into this new account." I stared at the numbers on the page. Thousands of dollars. Money that should have been going into our joint business account was being funneled somewhere else. "There's more," Lucia said grimly. She pulled out a stack of contracts. "Remember the Morrison wedding last month, the one that paid us $15,000? Of course, it was our biggest job this year. According to this, Derek renegotiated the contract after you signed it. He changed the payment terms so that all future payments from the Morrison family go directly to his personal account." I felt sick. "He can't do that. I'm half owner of this business." Lucia's face was grim. "Nina, look at this business license." "Really, look at it." I picked up the framed license that Derek had hung so proudly in our kitchen, the one that said Tor's Catering in bold letters. But as I read the fine print, my blood turned to ice. "Owner Derek Tor's," it read, "business type sole proprietorship." "Sole proprietorship," I whispered. "But we started this together. We're supposed to be partners. According to these legal documents, you're listed as an employee," Lucia said softly. "A very well-paid employee, but still just an employee." I sank into my chair, the weight of Derek's betrayal crushing down on me. "How is that possible?" "I signed partnership papers. I remember signing them." Lucia pulled out another folder. "I think these are the papers you signed, but look at the header." I looked. Instead of partnership agreement, the document was titled employment contract. The legal language was so complicated that I hadn't understood what I was actually signing. "He tricked me," I said, my voice barely a whisper. "From the very beginning, he tricked me." "It gets worse," Lucia said. She showed me a series of loan documents. "Derek has been taking out business loans using the company as collateral, big loans. And according to this, if the business fails to pay them back, the lenders can seize all company assets." "How much does he owe?" Lucia did some quick math on her calculator. "Almost $200,000. I felt like I was going to throw up. $200,000, what did he spend it on? "I don't know, but I have an idea how to find out." Lucia pulled out her laptop. "Derek gave me access to his business credit card account for expense tracking. Let me check his recent purchases." As she typed, I paced around my dining room trying to process everything. My husband had been systematically stealing from our business, taking out massive loans and setting me up to lose everything. "Oh my God," Lucia gasped, staring at her laptop screen. "What? Nah, you need to see this." She turned the laptop toward me. "Derek's credit card statements. Look at these charges." I looked at the screen and felt my heart shatter completely. Expensive restaurants I had never been to. Hotel rooms booked during times when Derek told me he was visiting suppliers. Jewelry purchases from stores I had never heard of. And then I saw the name on some of the restaurant reservations. "Derek Tours and Guest. He's having an affair," I said quietly. "Not just any affair," Lucia said, clicking on another tab. "Look at this charge. Tiffany & Co. diamond engagement ring, $8,500. The room started spinning. Derek had bought an engagement ring for someone else using money from our business. "Who is she?" I asked. Lucia hesitated. "Nina, I think I know. Remember the Blackwood wedding we catered last month? The one where Derek spent a lot of time talking to the bride's family, the daughter," I whispered. "Amanda Blackwood. Her father owns half the restaurants in the city." Lucia said, "If Derek marries her, he gets access to all those catering contracts." I finished, "And he gets rid of me at the same time." I sat down heavily, staring at all the evidence spread across my table. Derek hadn't just been planning to divorce me. He had been planning to steal my life's work, destroy my financial future, and replace me with someone who could give him more business connections. And his mother had been helping him every step of the way. "What are we going to do?" Lucia asked. I looked at my best friend, the only person I could trust, and made a decision. We're going to beat them at their own game. That afternoon I did something I hadn't done in 8 years. I called my father. Carlos Mendes and I had what people politely called a complicated relationship. He was one of the most powerful construction moguls in the state. A man who built skyscrapers and shopping centers with the same ease that I baked wedding cakes. He was also stubborn, controlling, and had very specific ideas about how his only daughter should live her life. We had our final fight the day I told him I was marrying Derek. Dad wanted me to marry someone from his world, someone with money and connections. When I chose love over his approval, He told me I was making the biggest mistake of my life. When that boy breaks your heart, he had said, don't come crying to me. Those were the last words we spoke to each other. Now, sitting in my car outside a coffee shop 3 towns away from where Derek might see me, I dialed the number I still knew by heart. Mendy's Construction, this is Carlos. His familiar voice answered. Dad. My voice cracked on the word. It's Nena. There was a long silence. Then, Mija, is that really you? Yes, it's me. I took a deep breath. And I think I need help. 20 minutes later, my father walked into the coffee shop and I barely recognized him. His black hair was now silver and there were lines around his eyes that hadn't been there 8 years ago. But when he saw me, his face lit up with the same warm smile I remembered from my childhood. My little girl, he said, pulling me into a hug that smelled like sawdust and expensive cologne. You look beautiful, tired but beautiful. We sat across from each other and for a moment neither of us knew what to say. I heard about your business, Dad finally said, Tours Catering. I'm proud of you, Nina, you built something amazing. You knew about my business. Dad smiled sadly. I know everything about your life, Mija. I didn't know how to reach out after all these years. I was too proud, too stubborn. I was stubborn too, I admitted. So Dad said, leaning forward, tell me what's wrong and don't say nothing. I can see it in your eyes. So I told him everything about Derek's betrayal, about the loans, about the affair, about Beverly's involvement. I showed him all the documents Lucia and I had found. Dad listened without interrupting, but I could see his jaw getting tighter with each detail. That piece of garbage, Dad said when I finished. And his witch of a mother. They think they can steal from my daughter. Dad, I don't want your money, I said quickly. I never wanted your money. I don't know what to do. They've been planning this for months. They have lawyers, they have documents, they have everything set up perfectly. Dad reached across the table and took my hands. Now you don't need my money, you need something much more valuable. What? You need my connections. Dad's eyes were hard now. The same look he got when someone tried to cheat him on a construction deal. Do you know how many lawyers owe me favors? How many judges have helped get elected? How many business owners depend on my construction contracts? I stared at him. Dad, I can't ask you to. You're not asking, I'm offering. Dad pulled out his phone. Beverly Tours thinks she's smart because she has one corrupt lawyer helping her son steal from you, but she has no idea who she's messing with. Dad made 3 phone calls right there in the coffee shop. The first was to his personal lawyer, a woman named Patricia Chen, who apparently specialized in business fraud cases. The second was to a private investigator who had worked for Dad's company for 15 years. The third was to someone he just called Judge Wang. Patricia will meet us at my office in an hour, Dad said after hanging up. Miguel is already running background checks on Derek Beverly and their lawyer and Judge Wang. Well, let's just say she's very interested in lawyers who help people commit fraud. Dad, this is all happening so fast. Nina, they've been planning to destroy you for months. We have less than 3 weeks to stop them. Dad stood up and put on his jacket, but don't worry, your old man didn't build a construction empire by letting people walk all over him. As we walked to our cars, Dad stopped and turned to me. There's something else you should know, he said. About Derek's gambling problem. I froze. What gambling problem? My investigator did some quick research while we were talking. Your husband owes money to some very dangerous people. A lot of money. How much? $50,000 to a loan shark named Tommy Ricci. My head was spinning. But the business loans, the money he's been stealing. He's been using your business to pay his gambling debts, Dad said grimly. And when he divorces you and takes everything, he'll use that money to pay off Ricci and start fresh with his new girlfriend. I felt sick all over again. Derek wasn't just betraying me for love or even for business connections. He was betraying me to save his own skin. What kind of man did I marry? I whispered. Dad put his arm around my shoulders. The wrong kind, but don't worry, Mija. We're going to make sure he pays for every lie he's told you. As we drove to Dad's office, I realized something important. For the first time in months, I didn't feel helpless. I felt dangerous. Dad's office was like stepping into a war room. Patricia Chen, his lawyer, had spread legal documents across a massive conference table. Miguel Santos, the private investigator, had 3 laptops open with background checks, financial records, and surveillance photos. Judge Wang sat at the head of the table, reviewing everything with sharp, calculating eyes. Nina, Patricia said as I sat down, your father has filled me in on the situation. What Derek and Beverly are doing is called fraudulent transfer of assets. It's a felony, but they have legal documents. I said, papers I signed, papers you signed under false pretenses, Judge Wang corrected. If we can prove Derek misrepresented what you were signing, those documents become worthless. Miguel looked up from his laptop. I've got good news and bad news. The bad news is that Derek's gambling problem is worse than we thought. He owes money to 3 different loan sharks, not just Tommy Ricci. My stomach dropped. How much total? $85,000. Dad cursed in Spanish, and the good news, Miguel grinned. Beverly's lawyer, Attorney Harrison, is dirty as a sewer rat. He's been helping clients hide assets in divorce cases for years. I found 4 other women who got screwed over exactly like Derek is trying to screw over Nina. That's our opening, Patricia said. If we can prove Harrison has a pattern of fraud, we can get all his cases reviewed. But we need evidence, Judge Wong said. Real evidence, recordings, documents, something that proves they're planning to commit fraud. I looked around the table at these people who were willing to help me fight back. What do you need me to do? Go home, Dad said. Act normal. Pretend you don't know anything, but while you're doing that, you're going to be gathering evidence. Patricia handed me a small device that looked like a pen. This is a recording device. Keep it with you whenever Derek or Beverly are around. We need them to admit what they're planning. Miguel gave me a tiny camera. This goes in your purse. Take pictures of any documents they show you, especially anything from Attorney Harrison. And this, Judge Wong said, handing me a business card, is for a forensic accountant. She'll help us trace where all your business money has really gone. The next 2 weeks were the hardest of my life. Every morning I woke up next to Derek and pretended everything was normal. I cooked his breakfast, kissed him goodbye and told him I loved him, all while knowing he was planning to destroy me. But I was gathering evidence. I recorded Derek talking to Beverly about getting rid of Now once and for all. I photographed the fake partnership papers that Attorney Harrison had prepared. I even managed to record a phone conversation between Derek and Amanda Blackwood where they talked about their wedding plans and how they would expand the catering business together. The hardest part was watching Derek lie to my face every single day. You seem stressed lately, he said one morning 2 weeks before my birthday. Everything okay? Just tired, I said, forcing a smile while the recording pen in my pocket captured every word. The business has been so busy. Well, don't worry, Derek said, putting his arms around me. After your birthday, things are going to be very different. You won't have to work so hard anymore. He was right. After my birthday, I wouldn't have to work at all because he was planning to steal my entire livelihood. That afternoon, I met with Patricia and Miguel at a restaurant across town. We've got enough evidence to bury them, Patricia said, reviewing the recordings I had made, Derek admitting he's planning to take the business. Beverly talking about forging documents, Attorney Harrison discussing illegal asset transfers. It's all here. But there's something else, Miguel said, looking serious. I've been watching Derek and he's getting desperate. The loan sharks are pressuring him for payment. Tommy Ritchie's guys visited Derek at the catering kitchen yesterday. What does that mean? I asked. It means Derek is running out of time, Patricia explained. He needs to complete this fraud quickly or he's going to be in serious physical danger. Good, I said, surprising myself with how cold I sounded. Let him be scared. Miguel pulled out a folder. There's more. I found out how Derek met Amanda Blackwood. Beverly introduced them. She's been planning this for over a year. I stared at the surveillance photos of Derek and Amanda together, holding hands, kissing, looking at engagement rings. My husband and his future wife planning their life together while destroying mine. I want them to pay, I said quietly. All of them. Derek, Beverly, Attorney Harrison. I want them to lose everything just like they're trying to make me lose everything. Patricia smiled. They will, but Nena, we need to let them complete their plan first. What do you mean? We need to let them hand you those divorce papers. Judge Wong explained, we need to let them think they've won because the moment they complete this fraud, we can have them all arrested. Dad reached across the table and squeezed my hand. Can you do it, Mija? Can you let them think they've destroyed you? I thought about Derek's lies, Beverly's cruelty, and Attorney Harrison's corruption. I thought about Amanda Blackwood planning to steal my life's work. I thought about all the sleepless nights I had spent building our business while Derek was gambling it away. Yes, I said, I can do it. Then we wait, Patricia said. Let them spring their trap, and when they do, we'll be ready with ours. The morning of my birthday, I woke up knowing it would be the last day of my old life. Derek was already gone when I opened my eyes. No birthday kiss, no happy birthday, nothing. Just an empty bed and the sound of his car pulling out of the driveway. I lay there for a moment feeling strangely calm. After weeks of pretending, of gathering evidence, of planning my counterattack, today was finally the day everything would come to light. My phone buzzed with a text from Lucia. Happy birthday, boss. Ready for the fireworks? I smiled and texted back. Let's light them up. At exactly 3:00 p.m. I got the call I had been expecting. Nah, Derek's voice sounded nervous. Can you come home early today? There's something Beverly and I need to discuss with you. Of course, I said, making my voice sound innocent. Is everything okay? Everything's fine, just come home as soon as you can. I hung up and immediately called Patricia. It's happening. Remember, she said, act shocked, act hurt, sign everything they give you but don't read it carefully. We need them to think you're completely defeated. And the moment I leave the house, Miguel will be watching. The second you're out, we execute our plan. I drove home slowly, savoring these last few minutes of Derek and Beverly, thinking they had won. When I pulled into my driveway, I could see them through the dining room window, sitting at the table like judges waiting to deliver a death sentence. I took a deep breath, checked that my recording pen was working, and walked into my house for what I knew would be the last time as Derek's wife. The scene played out exactly as I had expected. Derek's cold formality, Beverly's fake sweetness, the manila folder full of legal documents. When Derek called me trash and Beverly laughed, I had to bite my tongue to keep from smiling because I knew something they didn't know. 3 weeks ago, I had legally changed my name back to Nina Mendes. Every signature on every document Derek had was now invalid because I was no longer legally Nina Torres. Patricia had made sure of that. When I signed those divorce papers and business transfer documents, I was signing as Nina Mendes, which meant the signatures didn't match any of the previous legal documents. Everything Derek thought he was getting was worthless, but they didn't know that yet. "Thank you," I said as I walked out, "for showing me exactly who you really are." The moment I closed the front door behind me, I pulled out my phone and sent a single text to Patricia. "It's done." Then I drove to the end of my street and waited. I didn't have to wait long. At 4:15 p.m., 3 police cars pulled up to my house. I watched through my rearview mirror as officers knocked on the door. I could see Derek's confused face when he answered, then his expression changing to panic as they showed him their badges. At 4:20 p.m., a black sedan arrived. Miguel got out, followed by Patricia and 2 FBI agents. White-collar crime division. At 4:25 p.m., Derek was led out of the house in handcuffs. At 4:30 p.m., Beverly was also arrested, screaming about how this was all a mistake. At 4:35 p.m., Attorney Harrison arrived at the house, probably thinking he was coming to celebrate their successful fraud. Instead, he was arrested the moment he stepped out of his car. My phone rang. It was Patricia. "Nina, it's over. We got them all. What happens now?" Now Derek and Beverly get to explain to a federal judge why they thought they could commit fraud against the daughter of Carlos Mendes. I laughed. Actually laughed for the first time in months, but the best part was still coming. At 5:00 p.m., while Derek was sitting in a jail cell, Tommy Reacher and his associates arrived at my house looking for their money. They found police tape and empty rooms. At 6:00 p.m., Derek's first desperate phone call came through to my cell phone. I let it go to voicemail. "Nina, please, you have to help me. There's been a mistake. I can explain everything. Please call me back." By 8:00 p.m., he had called 12 times. By 1:00 p.m., it was 23 calls. I listened to every voicemail. Derek crying, begging, promising he could fix everything. Beverly screaming in the background about how this was all my fault. Attorney Harrison trying to negotiate some kind of deal. But my favorite call came at 11:47 p.m. "Nina." Derek's voice was broken, desperate. "The loan sharks are looking for me. They think I have their money, but I don't have anything. The police froze all the accounts. I need help. Please, I'm begging you. I know I hurt you, but I never meant for it to go this far. Please don't let them kill me." I saved that voicemail. Then I turned off my phone, poured myself a glass of wine, and sat in my hotel room thinking about how different my life was going to be. Derek had been right about one thing. After my birthday, everything was going to be very different. Just not the way he had planned. Tomorrow I would start rebuilding my life. Tonight I was going to enjoy the sound of silence. No more lies, no more betrayal, no more Derek. Just me and the sweet taste of justice served cold. 1 year later, I stood in the kitchen of my new restaurant, Mendes Kitchen, watching my team prepare for our grand opening celebration. The space was 3 times bigger than our old catering kitchen, with state-of-the-art equipment and a dining room that could seat 200 people. "Boss, the food critics from the Times just arrived," Lucia called out, grinning from ear to ear. She was now my full business partner, just like we had always dreamed. "Perfect timing," I said, putting the finishing touches on my grandmother's famous tres leches cake. "Let's show them what real cooking looks like." The past year had been a whirlwind of legal battles, business rebuilding, and personal healing. But every single day had been worth it to get to this moment. Derek's trial had been front-page news for weeks. Fraud, embezzlement, forgery, conspiracy. The evidence Patricia and I had gathered was so overwhelming that Derek's public defender advised him to take a plea deal. He got 5 years in federal prison. Beverly got 3 years for her role in the conspiracy. Watching her being led away in handcuffs, her perfect hair finally messed up, and her expensive makeup running down her face was one of the most satisfying moments of my life. Attorney Harrison lost his law license and got 2 years in prison. The 4 other women he had helped cheat in their divorces all sued him successfully. He lost his house, his car, and his reputation. But the real justice came when Derek's gambling debts caught up with him. Even in prison, Tommy Ritchie's associates found ways to make Derek's life miserable. I heard through Miguel that Derek spent most of his time in protective custody, too scared to walk around the general prison population. Amanda Blackwood, Derek's supposed future wife, disappeared the moment the arrests hit the news. Turns out her love wasn't strong enough to survive a federal fraud conviction and bankruptcy. As for me, I got everything back plus damages. The court ruled that all of Derek's business transfers were fraudulent. I regained full control of Tor's catering, which I immediately renamed and restructured. The judge also awarded me Derek's half of our house, his car, and compensation for all the money he had stolen. But the best part was reconnecting with my father. "Mija," Dad said, walking into the kitchen wearing a chef's hat that said, "Proud Papa, the dining room is packed. Half the city council is here, 3 judges, and I think I saw the mayor." "Dad, you don't have to wear that hat," I laughed. "Are you kidding? My daughter is the most successful restaurateur in the city. I'm wearing this hat everywhere." Dad had become my biggest supporter and my business partner. His construction company had renovated the restaurant space and his connections had helped me get all the permits and licenses I needed. But more importantly, we had rebuilt our relationship. "I'm sorry I was so stubborn," he had told me during one of our weekly dinners. "I should have supported your choices even if I didn't understand them." "I'm sorry too," I had said. "I should have trusted that you just wanted what was best for me." Now we talked every day and Dad had even started taking cooking lessons from me. He was terrible at it, but he tried so hard that it was adorable. The restaurant's opening night was everything I had dreamed of. Food critics raved about my updated versions of traditional recipes. Business owners lined up to book private events. Local news stations interviewed me about my inspiring comeback story, but the moment that meant the most to me came at the end of the night. I was cleaning up the kitchen when my phone rang. It was a number I didn't recognize, but when I answered, I heard a familiar voice. "Nina, it's Derek." I almost hung up, but curiosity got the better of me. "What do you want, Derek? I saw the news about your restaurant. It looks amazing." His voice was different now, smaller, defeated. I wanted to say congratulations. "Thank you," I said simply. "Nina, I know I don't deserve to ask this, but do you think you could ever forgive me?" I looked around my beautiful new kitchen, thought about my thriving business, my reconciled relationship with my father, my partnership with Lucia, and the peace I had finally found. "Derek," I said, "I forgave you a long time ago. Not for your sake, but for mine. Holding on to anger was just holding me back." "Does that mean could we maybe talk sometime when I get out?" I smiled even though he couldn't see it. "Derek, I hope you find happiness someday. I really do, but that happiness isn't going to include me. I've moved on." "I understand," he said quietly. I wanted you to know that I'm sorry for everything." "I know you are." I said, "Goodbye, Derek." I hung up and deleted his number. Then I walked out to the dining room where Dad, Lucia, and all my friends were waiting to toast my success. "To Nina," Dad said, raising his glass, "who proved that the best revenge is living well." "To new beginnings," I said, clinking my glass against his. As I looked around at all the people who truly loved and supported me, I realized something important. Derek had tried to destroy my life, but instead, he had given me the push I needed to build something even better. Sometimes the worst thing that happens to you turns out to be the best thing that ever happened to you. And sometimes karma doesn't just arrive. Sometimes karma comes with a side of tres leches cake and a 5-star restaurant.